Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1994 Alpina B3 3.0/1. Quite the name, but up front is a 3.0 liter inline 6 and down below is a 5-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Alpina because this looks like a BMW, even has BMW badges, but underneath is something different entirely, and I'm excited to share this very quirky, strange imported vehicle with you today. But if you would like to share your strange, quirky, or imported vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's talk about what the Alpina B3 is, because all you E36 fans, if you don't know what this is, might be scratching your head just a little bit. So Alpina is its own separate company away from BMW. Back in 1962, the founders of Alpina tuned carburetors for BMW touring cars, and BMW loved their work so much that they said, hey, we'll toss our factory warranty onto your aftermarket work, which is incredibly high praise for an aftermarket company. In the early 1980s, Alpina started producing their own cars, taking regular BMW 3 Series, 5 Series, 7 Series, and upfitting them with their goodies. And that's exactly what this car is. This is the E36 generation of the B3, and it originally started its life as a 325i. However, they stroked the motor to make it a 3-liter, changed out to the transmission that we'll talk about, added all of the Alpina goodies, and called it a day. And so today we're going to be taking a deeper dive into what those goodies are and how it drives. Speaking of which, let's talk about that 3-liter inline 6. It produces about 250 horsepower. I saw readings between 247 and 250. So let's be generous this morning and say 250, which is a pretty solid number considering the fact that the BMW M3 was making 10 less horsepower at the time. Now, this car is actually not built off of an M3, contrary to popular belief. And the engine isn't the most powerful thing I've ever felt on planet Earth, but that wasn't really Alpina's goal. They wanted to add to something that was already great. They wanted a more thorough vehicle, because apparently BMW 3 Series were so rough at the time. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed automatic, and let me tell you why that is the better transmission option than the manual, because you could find these in manual as well. This is known as the Shiftronic transmission, and it was the first production car to have push-button shifting. When you put it into sport, there are 2 buttons on the steering wheel, and it will not shift until you hit them. Alpina says this is to mimic the Formula 1 cars of the era, as they were switching to push-button shifting as well. And it's incredibly cool. It's a pretty decent transmission. It's not quite what modern transmissions are today in terms of their shifting speed, but it's just so unique to be driving something that at the time was the cutting edge. Porsche only introduced it 2 years later. So the Alpina, although it was in very small quantities and very small numbers, actually was the first to have this technology. Last but not least about the drivetrain, of course the Alpina B3 is rear-wheel drive, and it does get a limited slip diff. So how does it feel to drive a B3? Well, if you've ever driven an E36, it drives pretty similar. The engine does have a lot more low-down torque, which is certainly noticeable, especially over the 325i that it was based off of. Driving it around town, you have a little bit more grunt for good. The steering is also a lot heavier than other E36s, and personally, I kind of like that. It has a more confident feeling to it. But overall, it's very standard run-of-the-mill E36 in here, but just with a little sparkle of something extra. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because we do have some fun Alpina bits in here as well. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. Now, these mimic the regular E36 gauges, but off to the left is my fuel. Then I have my speedometer and tachometer, and off to the right is my coolant temperature. But I also get these added Alpina digital gauges for the oil temperature, oil pressure, transmission temperature, and the Switchtronic gear, so it'll tell you you which gear you are in. The steering wheel is a Momo unit, and off to the left and right, we have horn buttons and the shifters. So this is used to shift up and down when you are in sport mode. Very, very cool and the first of its kind. And also, I love the Alpina badge because it really sticks with its roots. Off to the left is a carburetor, and off to the right is a crankshaft. Again, like I said, they started their business modifying carburetors, so very, very cool sort of kick to the past. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent, headlight switches, and fog light switches. Of course, being a European car, this does have rear fog lights. And moving on to the door, we do have our power mirrors and a speaker, as well as we have this really cool design on the door card that is mimicked by the seats. I love this little cloth attention to detail. Moving into the center, we get the comically large E36 vent. If you've ever seen a POV drifting video, you can immediately tell when it's an E36 because of this huge vent. And down below that, we do have a cassette player, AM and FM radio, favorite scan, all of that infotainment stuff from 1994, as well as we have our climate controls. So off to the left is fan speed, off to the right is where to send it, and the center is the temperature, which we do get dual zone temperature, which is insanely cool for 1994. However, maybe this is a European thing, but at the bottom, it shows you where to set all of the max temperature. If you want max defrost, then we have a little information center. This will give you some warnings, like currently it says that the brake light is failing, even though it isn't. But you can set the date, clock, things like that. Little cubby, cigarette lighter, and we move into the center. Now, the window switches are found down here, as well as our transmission settings. So we have that sport mode, economy mode, it'll shift itself, and then snow mode. And the shifter itself, very run-of-the-mill BMW shifter from this era. It's a little flimsy, a little plasticky, but this car is decently low mileage, so it's still operating well. Then we do have our hazard switch right in the center and a little ashtray, coin holders, and cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Alpina B3. And unfortunately it fails. I didn't really think it would pass, but still something interesting to note. Well, that's an interesting turn signal sound. All right, now we gotta talk about the seats, and like I said with the door cards, this does mimic the cloth seats. We did not get cloth seats in the E36 here in the United States, so driving an E36 BMW with cloth seats is very, very strange and not something I'm used to, even though I've driven a lot of E36s during my career. So very interesting to see and feel. They are very comfortable, and honestly, these are my preferred seats if we are going to talk about this chassis. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the Alpina B3 3.0, and it is not terrible. It's not great. The 3 Series was a very small chassis at the time, at least in terms of American standards. Now, overseas in Europe, this was actually a pretty decent sized car, which is why people would justify spending extra money getting the Alpina over just the regular 3 Series. Here, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense because I was like, why would you spend a whole lot of extra money and still have just a 3 Series, but over in Europe it's different, whatever. The back seats aren't amazing, but I believe this is the first sedan E36 I've ever reviewed. Let me think. I think so. So, being in the back of a sedan E36 is kind of interesting. Do have a little ashtray down here, and what I love is the fabric from up front carries on back here. So we get that green and blue striping, the fabric seats as well. Absolutely love that. Is this a groundbreaking, record-breaking, smashing back seat? No, but it doesn't have to be. I'm sitting in the back of an Alpina, and I'm sure I'm one of the few people that can say that they did that today. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Alpina. Heavy trunk lid. And once we are back here, nothing really crazy to write home about. We do get the standard med kit, which is pretty cool. And other than that, oh, interesting, we still get the BMW toolkit. Let's see how much of it is left. Oh, wow. Look at that. Very, very rare to find the pieces here in these toolkits because people use them and then they put them in their pocket and forget and whatnot. So one of my favorite features of older BMW products is this toolkit. Absolutely love that. Oh, and here we actually do have attention when using spare. This is an Alpina specific sticker. So when using a spare wheel of a different size, avoid speeds above 120 kilometers an hour. Very cool. Hi, geese. Ooh, geese. Geese are coming. They're coming for me. They're coming for my Alpina. They will not get my Alpina. Very, very cool. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love the look of the Alpina B3 because it gets these extra special graphics down the side. Are they kind of cheesy and useless? Of course. But hey, they're cool to look at nevertheless. I love the wheels. The wheels are very interesting because they have this locking sort of center cap, and that's actually where you'll find the tire air stem is underneath that cap. Not very common in most vehicles. But overall, I like the design. Of course, it does just accentuate the E36 design that was already there, and I think it's a relatively handsome vehicle. And I do want to talk about the fact that it is a sedan. From April 1993 to February of 1996, Alpina made 767 B3s, but only 359 of those were sedans. So not only is this one of 359, but if you start speccing out with the automatic transmission, you start speccing out specifically 1994, that number is going to shrink and shrink. So at maximum, this is one of 359 cars, which is incredibly rare and helped out by the fact that it is a sedan. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving an Alpina B3 from 1994? Well, this being my first Alpina experience, I think it's been incredibly cool. Before I did any research or got into this video, I always assumed that Alpina just tuned their cars to the nth degree, trying to make the most power that they can. And that's really not the case. Even if you go onto Alpina's website, they talk about how they make cars for connoisseurs. They take the already perfect, in their words, E36 and make it even better. I mean, take a look at the plaque on the dashboard. Production exclusiver automobile. I mean, come on. But that's really what this is. This is for someone who knows and loves the E36 or knows and loves BMW, loves their products, familiar with the brand, but they want something more. They've owned the M3s. They've owned the 325, 328, 3 whatever series BMW, 318, and that just doesn't cut the mustard anymore. This is something exclusive. This is rare. According to the owner, he can only find about 10 of these registered in the United States. And in order to get here to the Midwest in the United States, this car was built in Germany, then sold new to a race team in Japan, then exported to Canada, and now here. This car has been in 4 different countries on 3 different continents. And so this car has aged like fine wine. And as luck would have it, Alpina actually makes their own wine, of which I would love to try. I would love to try some Alpina wine. If they make wine as good as they make cars, I think I'm in for a good treat. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I also want to give a huge thank you to Thomas for letting me take out his Alpina B3. This is such a cool car. Thomas has been a longtime friend of mine, and I am very, very thankful for him. I was so excited to drive this car. This is just something so special and unique. I hope you guys have been enjoying all of the special and unique cars coming out on my channel yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever.
Hoffe, ihr habt das Video genossen. Vergessen Sie nicht, das Video zu bewerten, den Kommentar abzugeben und zu abonnieren, wenn es Ihnen gefallen hat. Passt auf, Leute.